So today, guys, we're going to be showing you guys the new green gear set coming to the Division 2 in Season 3, the REFACTOR set. And I'm telling you, if you're a skill build player, I would pay attention because you're going to be able to play skill builds a whole different way, a way that you've probably never been able to play before. And with the new season modifiers, it's going to pair up perfectly. So for all of you guys who want to take advantage of those new Season 3 modifiers and you guys want to try out the new green gear set, this might be a build you guys want to keep an eye out for. Now remember, this build I put together and it could definitely be improved on, and I just picked and choose the pieces that I thought would work great with the way the skills are now healing me, right? Because the way this green gear set works is you will receive repairs of 10% of the damage dealt by your skills. Now, in a team, it also works because your allies will also receive repairs of 20% of the damage dealt by your skills. And as you're seeing on the screen, my skills are doing an insane amount of damage. And what does that mean? Paired up with the build that I have, I'm able to run around, face tank enemies here and there. I'm not face tanking them like if I had a striker set and I'm putting out crazy amount of damage. But for skill players who like using their skills and like running around, well, this might be an amazing set for you to use. As you can see, I only have about 1.1 million armor, and I'm trading with these guys. This is a heroic control point. It's not something you typically do with the skill build. You'll sit back, let the skills do the work, and then you go in, right? But for skill build players, this could be crazy. Just look at how my armor just regen there. Did you just see that? It went from about a quarter to all the way max, and that was because there were enemies in front of me that both of my skills were hitting, and that just gives you that chunk of armor. Now what's also cool about this set is the 3-piece gives you 25% skill damage, which allows you to run this set because you're still getting a ton of skill damage on a green gear set, which we typically didn't have in the past. So for me, I'm actually enjoying this, and I think this 3-piece with that repair skills will be a way you'll start to see some players run their skill builds. And imagine having a player like this on your team on Legendary just throwing out his skills while you guys are doing damage, and you guys are still getting chunks of armor back, right? I mean, it's a win-win, especially in a group. So I definitely want to try this out with at least one other player, maybe two, and see how that 20% affects them, and maybe even try out the chest piece that improves that. But on this build, I am not running the chest piece, so I would get 10% repair, and then my teammates would get 20%. Now, I did want to try this out on Legendary, and I currently don't have a full memento stack, so my skills are actually doing a lot less damage than they would if I was at full stack. I'm missing about 30% skill efficiency on the build, but once we start to build up those stacks, you'll see I'll start to grab a few of those trophies. And when I do, you're going to start to see the uptick in damage that my striker drone and assault turret end up doing. Not only that, my survivability is going to get better because my skills in return are doing more damage. And remember, I get 10% of that damage back repaired. So it's a win-win for me. And not only that, with the memento at 30 stacks, that's 3% armor regen. So some more survivability there, not using as many armor kits. Allowing your skills to do a lot of the work is going to help you survive longer. But in a second, we're going to be getting the big boys that come out of the heli. And then after that, I'll show you a little bit more gameplay inside of Legendary. And man, we'll get to the build so that way you guys can see what I was running. So when you guys do get your chance to check out this new green gear set, you guys will like it. But I'm telling you, from a skill build standpoint, I think it does really well. It holds up. It does exactly what you want it to do by allowing you to have survivability, but still have really good skill damage. If you run a striker drone, if you run an assault turret, those are both going to put out a ton of damage. That's going to allow you to drop enemies pretty quick. And with the new seasonal modifiers, it seems that the devs did want players to try out something different than maybe a pure DPS build, when you could run something like a semi-hybrid skill build. But yeah, if you look at these big boys, they're about to get, the armor is about to go down, and then one of my skills did go down, so I lost a little bit of damage there. But that assault turret, it's still going at it. We have the striker drone just went live, and big boy went down. We have another one over here. I'm barely getting touched. Like, my skills are clearing out a lot of enemies really fast. So same thing, look, we're just sitting back here, sending in the striker drone, damage is going off. And I'm telling you, I don't have expertise in any of my skills, so it is something that I could spend some resources in to make my skills even stronger. I'm sure some of you skill build players who are skill build mains have yours fully set up, but I don't. And man, I was not disappointed with how this build performed, and I still think I could probably keep tweaking it, switching out pieces to find out what works the best, because at the moment I put this together, I'm enjoying it, but I think it could get even better. But again, since this is a PTS, we never know what will change, so I try to put together something that works, try to showcase the build. And if I put together something that's really good, I make kind of a semi-build video, but don't want to make it an official build video because anything can happen. But again, I'm telling you, I think the next thing I need to do is test this out in a group and see how my teammates feel, because that would be the icing on the cake, right? If I could have a build that makes me feel good and allows me to survive, but say my teammate says, yo, that extra 20% that I'm getting is making me feel a little invincible or making me feel pretty comfortable, it's a win-win, right? So it's definitely something I want to test out. I haven't been able to. I was trying to see if one of my buddies was on, but he wasn't. But again, we will try to test it. I think there's a few days for this PTS. Remember, anything could change. As I said, this does go live on February 25th. So that is when we'll officially have the final version of this. But during this PTS, as people are testing it, again, they could change a lot of things. But I'm thinking, after reading the active modifiers, checking out this gear set with those modifiers, the season of skills might be something we start to see a lot of people playing this upcoming season just because of the way the modifiers work. But let's get into the build so you guys can see how I had it set up and you can guys get an idea of what you might be looking at using. Now for the build, we are using the exotic capacitor. This is probably my #1 go-to anytime I run a skill build because of the way this exotic works. We do have 20% expertise on here. Do you need to have that? Obviously, if you guys want to make the best version of this build, we have assault rifle damage, damage to armor, and damage to targets out of cover. Now, for the capacitor itself, the talent is what makes it shine because shooting enemies builds a stack cap of 40. Each stack grants 1.5 skill damage. So that means at max stack, you can have up to 60% extra skill damage on the build itself. Now, for each yellow skill tier, we also get 7.5% weapon damage, which is additional 40% weapon damage we can get on our weapon. So again, this is actually really good, especially if you're going to run 6 skill tier and you want to maximize how much damage your skills do. Now we do have the new gear set, so this gives us 15% status effects, 25% skill damage. The reason I like the 4th piece, and I wasn't really sure about this, was because receive repairs of 10% of the damage dealt by your skills. And this adds up, especially if your skills are putting out a ton of damage, because it's a lot of shots they're shooting out. You can have, it's almost like armor regen on crack, right? Like it's constantly going up. And if you run this in a group, your allies receive repairs up to 20%. But I was testing this solo. I think in group, this is even going to get better. I need some of you guys to test this out when you guys get your hands on this and let me know. Now, we do have skill tier on here. We have skill damage and skill duration. You can put skill haste. I thought skill duration would be the best here because our skills can stay up longer and hopefully survive, right? And as long as they stay up longer, I'm constantly getting that healing back, and they're putting out tons of damage. For the chest piece, I went with something I typically don't do. I actually, Uzina, I like this set because it does give us 5% total armor. Again, this is probably a set you would want to go with the Wyvern, and you're going to want that 8% skill damage. That's kind of what you're going to want to go there. So do you need to have that? But you do want to have skill damage here and skill haste. So you want skill haste, skill damage, and then skill duration mod. But again, you can pick which one you guys want to go with. If you guys want to go with something like Wyvern Wear, which is the 8% skill damage, or maybe something to give you a little bit more armor, you can go there. This is really up to you. I went with less damage, and I was still doing really good in Legendary, so that was actually really cool. Now, for the talent itself, if we look at it, I am going with kinetic momentum. So when in combat, each skill generates a stack while active and not on cooldown. Stacks increase your total skill damage by 1.5%. and total skill repair by 2%, up to 15 stacks per skill. So this is lost when on cooldown. So you can get a ton of damage out of kinetic momentum. And I honestly, this is probably my go-to because I don't like using glass cannon, especially if I'm running around. But this is kind of how I like it. For our second piece of the refactor set, we are running the holster. So we have skill tier and skill damage. For our knee pads, another piece of the refactor gear set, and we have skill tier and skill damage. And then our fourth and final piece for our refactor is skill tier and skill damage. So skill tier, skill damage on all of the green pieces. Now I went with the Memento backpack because the weapon damage, the armor, the skill tier, you get 3 cores. That allows us to get up there to that 6th tier. We have skill haste on here. Again, you can put skill haste, skill duration, up to you. Kill confirmed is what really sets this apart because remember, when we're at full stacks, we're getting 30% weapon damage, but also 30% skill efficiency. That's 30% skill haste, 30% skill damage, 30% skill duration. So that's why skill efficiency is so important, especially on a skill build, especially if you could pick up. And you guys saw, I started off with no trophies, picked them up, and we were getting through the legendary. And I just wanted to get through a couple parts just to show you it could put out. And that was solo. Imagine in a group how well this could work. Just that. And then if I ever pick up a trophy, that's 30% extra skill efficiency, 20% extra bonus armor, 5% weapon damage. So a lot of extra bonuses I'm getting here. And that's kind of what you really want from a skill build. And that's why this build technically I think works so good. Now the skills I am running is I am running the turret, the assault turret, and that's tier 6. You see, we're getting the extra bonus of 120% damage, 420% health. We have damage mod 5%, 7.5% duration, and 7.5 skill haste. The mods you guys want there. And then we also have the striker drone. We're getting the extra 120% striker damage, and then also 420% health. We have duration, health, and damage on there. Exactly what you guys want for both of those pieces. But if you look here, the global modifier. So as we're building our stacks, we're getting 20% weapon damage. We're getting 20% skill damage, 20% movement speed, reload speed, rate of fire. This is why I'm saying this right here is so good for so many of you to try it. This season is probably going to be the season of skill builds. We'll keep testing them, but I think skill builds might be a thing this season and more people might have fun running them. All right, guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Ain't nothing but skills out.